Right, let's say Hooble Toodle Doo to Limp Bizkit, and their number one single, it's called Rollin', Rollin', Rollin'. Well, actually, it's just called Rollin', but they say it a few times, don't they?
This, for me, is a proper intro juice, so much so that I have ticked the word intro just 3 times on my sheet of paper.
Are you talking about the spoken word bit, the all right?
No. I didn't even want to talk about that because it downgrades it so much for me. Yeah, the first 10 seconds of the music video are, again, we're back to the whole you can't unexperience it. So I need to forget that bit exists. So yeah, we do have a bit of a cameo from Ben Stiller and Stephen Dorff in the music video where Ben Stiller rolls up in a Bentley looking for the valet, thinks it's Fred Durst, throws him the keys, and then Fred Durst exposes himself as the worst actor of all time, which you do see in future music videos too. The next one we're going to cover also exposes him as being a really shit actor. My Way is a bit of a nightmare, but yeah, so let's forget that bit exists, will we?
If you like,
just so we can talk about Rollin'.
I personally quite enjoy the intro bit. I like to keep on rolling, baby. It's so cringe. But let's face it, the whole track is kind of cringe. So you may as well start as you mean to go on.
That bit is the like 2001 version of So the song goes, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ting, tang, walla, walla, bing, bang. It's that by Fred Durst, and it shouldn't exist in our world.
Okay, with your permission, we'll move on to the next, well, the rest of the song, because that is just one small footnote in what is quite a big thing to delve into.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly it's one of those tracks that has a lot of reading material online. I think people still talk about it, 19 years on. I mean, I imagine next year when it's 20 years, there'll be people coming out with big things saying like, oh, Limp Bizkit Rollin', change music, or Limp Bizkit Rollin', destroy music. And certainly if you look now, the camp is split pretty much like that. It's either revolutionary or it was the death of music altogether, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things that's really difficult, but I didn't really realise until I've listened to it again now, because I haven't experienced it that much beyond 20 years ago. I thought that at the time this was really, really heavy, and it was kind of heavy metalish without getting into the really, really, really scary realms of metal, but it's actually really entry level, which makes it kind of important, because I'm still very big on, you've got entry level kind of cheesy stuff that feeds into the system, and it's the same for like dance tracks, so David Guetta was underground for ages, but then David Guetta fed the system, and then the system became big because of people like that. I think this is actually like that, where no matter what your opinion is of Limp Bizkit, if you like, appreciate, and respect anything rock and roll and metal, you kind of need to thank them a little bit for this.
Yeah, and funnily enough, David Guetta got to go back underground again, didn't he? Because he had a new side project that he came out with.
Yep.
But he wouldn't have got to have that. Like Calvin Harris. Calvin Harris started out underground, became huge, did it all. He's now a Love Regenerator. But equally, he's got the track with The Weeknd out this very week. So, you've kind of got to bite both hands of the thing. Not sure where that went, really. So my personal feeling is I can't tell if it's genius or shit. I'm stuck in the middle. I'm really stuck in the middle of those two camps.
Yeah.
There can't be many like me who are on the fence about this. I think most people have kind of drawn their flags already.
Yeah. And so I was really excited for this coming because instrumentally, I think it's brilliant. I still love Fred Durst's voice. And when I've gone through it today and I've done my research, I was like, oh, hold on a second, is this a bit pants? And I thought, you know what, it isn't. It isn't that it's pants. It's that actually when you're watching it as an adult, I'm downgrading parts of it. And then, because there's alternative versions of it, I watched the Urban Assault Vehicle version.
Yeah.
And then I saw how awful that was, and actually what that ended up making it sound like was it was an LMFAO track, so that totally upgraded the Limp Bizkit original version for me again. And heavy metal really does highlight Fred so much better, but I do really like it, and I think it's a really strong track. And the fact that you're even saying, people are still talking about it now, next year whenever it hits 20, it's going to be all over the place. People still have caps dressed like him. Me, kind of. But yeah, I still think that it's a really brilliant song that was kind of downgraded by probably the music video destroyed it, to be fair.
Do you think, I've got a few notes on the video. The fact it has Ben Stiller, who supposedly was mates with Fred Durst, shows that new metal is not a genre that takes itself particularly seriously. You don't put Ben Stiller in there if you're trying to make a really, really credible heavy metal thing. New metal's always had that kind of like sort of fuck you, we're going to just do what we want attitude. I've kind of, when I was watching the video, I found myself, I'm going to show you on camera, I'm going to try and describe it. Those like American little middle fingers they do like that, where you kind of you keep one knuckle sort of down. It's kind of small like that. It's kind of like, not like a fully stretched middle finger. It's more like one of those.
Okay, right.
You know what I mean? I found myself doing that this week, and I found myself like, I think I've become 40% more rebellious, like statistically inside of myself, just from listening to it and feeling the anger and the angst. I think it's kind of seeping into us. I do think it's kind of seeping into us.
Maybe the seriousness of the whole thing is something that's part of heavy metal because you expect it to be so hardcore. For me, if we look back at that video point of it, right, Ben Stiller, I don't need. I love the fact that what you've got is you've got them on the heliport of the Twin Towers, which is great. I think that bit looks really heavy metal for me, and rock and roll, that's brilliant. What I didn't really need, and the dance routine, I think, is fine because, like, I was 16. We all did it. All lads thought they were Fred Durst. But there's a lot of dancers in this disco ball place, and it looks like an American version of Pop World, you know, them like 70s and 80s disco brands that were around the country. I didn't need that side of it again, and I think that again what downgraded it for me, really. But that cheesed it up for me a little bit. Yeah, I don't really want the disco ball. And we never find out what happens to the car. Did Ben get it back? I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe they just torched it and just did middle fingers out of ages. Lyrically, I mean, that's probably the if you were gonna dissect it and look at what people might not like about it, you'd say lyrically it's kind of a bag of shit. 1, 2, 3 times 2 to the 6 jolts in your fix with the Limp Bizkit mix. So where the fuck you at, punk? Shut the fuck up and back the fuck up while we fuck this track up. It's just one lyric that I picked out as being particularly
It was like Fred Durst was in Heaton in Newcastle right there, honestly. Cheryl will be knocking on your door in seconds.
I'm fine with that. A Fuse article in 2016 said it might have the worst lyrics of any song ever.
Oh dear.
Bad rhyming schemes. As I've already referenced, bad multiplication. You know, you could just say 6 rather than doing all that stupid maths. Mixed messaging too, because they shout out a list of specific groups, you know, ladies, fellas, people who don't give a fuck, and then they end that list with everybody all around the world.
It's Vanessa Amorosi on Limp Bizkit tracks, ladies and gentlemen.
It's not for everyone, but I defy anybody to not bang their head to the hook. Because I just found myself going nuts. I found myself really getting invested in it and really going berserk to it.
This is why this podcast is brilliant and how things change with discussion, because you have talked me out of this track.
Have I?
Yeah,
And I know how much you were...
Mm-hmm. I do. Instrumentally, I still think it's brilliant. Lyrically, you know, it was never really that. It was like it was a floor filler. It's exactly the point of it, was a floor filler. I still think it's important. It fed people in. Maybe actually because of all of that, maybe because I'm downgrading my opinion of it, we're overlooking the fact maybe it is the best pop track. Maybe am I talking myself back into it? Yeah, maybe this is exactly what this is about, these types of tracks.
Regardless of what we think, the album it came from, Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavoured Water, terrible name, it was the fastest selling rock album of all time. It sold 1 million copies in a week. So regardless of what we think, millions of people bloody love it. And, you know, who are we to say? I'm kind of on the fence. I'm sorry that I feel like I've ruined it for you, but
maybe you've just made it for me. We'll see. And, you know, I'm a reflective soul, so maybe next week I'll feel differently. So I just need to be careful in the battle for what goes in my pot this week, I think.